Ferguson. Albert skorar! Albert Ferguson hefur skorað. Ferguson er skoðað á mark. Glæsilega gert. Óskar Rafn á móti Bjarna. Og Bjarni með góða sendingu fyrir og það er aftur Ingvarsson.
Hello and welcome back to the best pod ever. I am Ragnar, as I usually am, and I am joined by...
I am Tryggvi.
It's been a little while, I feel. It's been a longer while since I've been here, and it's been a little while since you've been here.
Yeah, took a little bit of an international break, but we are back.
We are back. A couple of things have gone down. A round and a partial round have happened in the meantime, and two international friendlies, one of which was good, the other of which was bad, right? So how do you want to begin this?
We can talk a little bit about the two games from round 14, so a little bit into the future.
Yeah, there was some time traveling going on.
Yeah, a little bit. This usually happens around June when Europe hasn't quite started, but it's gearing up to start the European campaign. And that means some of these games for the European campaigners gets pushed around. And I don't know if it was by design or happy accident, but all four European teams played each other from the round 14 games. That's how math works. This is the second time they're meeting each other this season. Some big games, Breiðablik Víkingur. So now we've had both Breiðablik Víkingur games.
Yeah.
Only 9.5 rounds into the season. We'll have some more in the post-season split, unless things go horribly wrong for either team. Yeah, it was sort of billed as this sort of super Sunday, Monday. I forget what day of the week this was. I don't think it was either of those days. Super Thursday.
And nice. Thirsty Thursday.
Thirsty Thursday. Four of the informed teams in the league, four maybe of the best teams in the league, signaled a bit of a rough weekend for Stjarnan.
Yeah, absolutely. So they won their first game against Valur 1-0, when Valur were looking a little bit worse maybe, and then I guess Valur didn't take too kindly to that, and then when at home they took them 5-1. No joke.
No, Joe and I discussed it a little bit in the last episode that both teams in theory, well, that's what we said at least, both teams have gotten better. It seems like Valur have gotten a little bit better than Stjarnan.
Doesn't look like Stjarnan have gotten much better given they've shipped 9 goals in the span of a couple of days.
Yeah, not our best forecast there. But I mean, they were, before this weekend, they were looking a little better. But yeah, no, it's a tough weekend. Losing 5-1 to Valur and then losing 4-2 to Vestri, which is arguably worse for them.
Yeah, probably. Shipping goal after goal after goal. Something has to be done there at the back.
Yeah, there was this talk because in the game against Valur, Guðmundur Kristjánsson was missing, and there was a lot of talk that this was just a blip. He's back now against Vestri. Everything's gonna be fine, and everything was very much not fine. I felt watching those games, I felt the problem was that there were like 3 or 4 of this exact same goal passing straight into Stjarnan's right back slot where nobody was. Óli Valur has been quite good this season at right back, coming back from professional football to join Stjarnan back on loan. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I think he went missing a little bit these two games. So I think it's a bit hard to know exactly what happened because Guðmundur Kristjánsson was back for the Vestri game and didn't seem to shore up the defense there. So yeah, it looks from sort of a team that looked like they were getting all their lone players and young players in sync. something's gone wrong now, and now there's there's a bit of pressure on Jurgut, which I think would be very, very premature and a bit silly. But yeah, there was a lot of ambition before the season for Stjarnan that this is a team that ended the season so well, and it took them a bit of time to get going, and then they got going, and then now they're stopped in the tracks. And I mean, they have a really tough game against FV on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, of their 4 upcoming games, they have against Háká should be winnable. Otherwise, it's against FV, it's against Víkingur, and then against KR.
So they should win 2 of those games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's if they really continue this, shipping 3 or more goals in all those games or most of those games, then maybe there's some talk there. But I mean, we'll see. They're also in a pretty tough cup game against Thor, who were a bit of started the season quite well in the first division. So. Yeah, I mean, it could easily be that a cup exit against the first division side, and then a few more bad games could turn up the pressure. But yeah, it's a bit hard to know. I mean, maybe they fixed all this in the international break, this weird defensive lapses. But yeah, it's a bit hard to know what exactly happened, because it seemed like some good players were just playing terribly for a little bit.
I guess time will tell. The other game, Breiðablik Víkingur, is. I mean, it's kind of the opposite. In the third round, Stjarnan Valur there wasn't a lot of goals in the second game. There was very many. In the first, Víkingur Breiðablik, as the case may well be and was, that one ended 4-1 with a bunch of goals, and then the second round won 1-1. Breiðablik maybe catching up a little bit. They find themselves now at 3 points behind Víkingur, sitting pretty in second. So do you think Breiðablik are improving?
Yeah, I think Breiðablik look really good right now. I was a bit harsh on them in the beginning of the season. I felt that they maybe weren't up to competing with Víkingur and potentially Valur and Stjarnan, but it seems like they've really caught up, and they've got something really going up over there. I mean, they were never a bad team. No. It just felt like something was a bit missing, so they weren't really converting. They weren't really able to do anything with the ball. It seemed like a lot of moving with the ball that never really went anywhere. And in these last 2 games, I think they played really well against Víkingur and were very unlucky not to win that game, to be very honest. It's not that Víkingur were bad. I thought in the whole first half that Víkingur had the opportunity to just go on the counter and score, like do the Víkingur thing. They sort of made every noise and made every move to do that, to do their usual thing, but it just got shut down so well by that whole bit of like midfield and defense. I think they did really, really well. Or they just kind of turned off in the last few minutes, and I mean, they could have easily lost that game. There was a free kick in the very last second that the goalkeeper saved quite well. Yeah, a bit of a reverse to the game last year where Breiðablik scored 2 in the last seconds to equalize against Víkingur. But no, I mean, I think they look good. They could have and should have won that game, and then they followed that up with a 2-0 win against Háká.
Yeah.
In round 9, which was their bogey team last year. They just for some reason they couldn't. They kept losing against Háká. Yeah, we can jump to that game maybe a little quickly. Like, I think Háká did quite well. I think they played pretty well. I think they were really pressing them and maybe not creating too much, but I think still that was sort of a game that could have easily gone the other way. But then Breiðablik scored a slightly controversial goal. They took a free kick where the ball was still moving, booted it up to Isak, and who chested it down to, I think, Yasundade. These games are a few days ago, so I'm trying to remember all this. But yeah, so a bit of a controversial opener there. And then after that, it was kind of all Breiðablik. But I think a pretty decent performance by Háká. So they're not quite dead there. Time to keep the time traveling thing moving a little bit. Let's jump slightly back to Breiðablik Víkingur just to finish that game off maybe. But yeah, I think Víkingur came what they couldn't lose that game because Valur had kicked the snot out of Stjarnan a few minutes before that. Mm-hmm. So they just needed to not lose too much ground to Valur, and they did that. And then they followed it up with a slightly shaky win against Fylkir, where they conceded 2 goals to Fylkir, which...
but scored 5.
Yeah, scored 5. Yeah. But I think that result was a little bit unfair to Fylkir. I think it was kind of a tight game up until the end, and then again, a bit of controversy again, where Aron Elís, it hit his hand in the where I think they equalized for 2-2. I think it might have been, but it was at a crucial point in the game, so a bit unfair to Fylkir, but a good bounce back from Víkingur, who, yeah, like you said, are sitting pretty at the top, and will now have to keep fighting off Breiðablik and Valur for the next few weeks and months.
So would you say it's become a 3-horse race?
I think so. Especially with Stjarnan and FO tripping up in round 9. And then KR doing what I think we'll touch on a bit later.
Yeah.
Doing what they did. It's a bit hard to see who, unless it's Vestri or Fram. Or Ia, maybe. I don't know. Ia can. But I mean, even if you think about form, but then you look at the table again, and I know they played a game more, but it's a 7-point drop from 3rd to 4th. That's already quite a gap for teams that haven't exactly been consistent.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is the top 3 in some capacity.
And the bottom 3, would you say it's a race between those 3 on who's going to go down, or would you put Vestri and maybe KR in that potential bracket?
Yeah, I think it's a bottom 5 at the moment. I think, I think Ia, Fram, Stjarnan, and FO are too good to be dragged down unless something crazy happens. KR and Vestri, I think Vestri have played admirably considering they still haven't played a home game. I mean, let's see, maybe this all falls apart once they're allowed to play at home. But no, KR have had a really bad run now, and so they can easily be dragged into this with HK, KR and Fylkir, but they need to be careful because it's now a 3-point gap between 10th and between HK and Vestri. Sort of to a lesser extent for teams that aren't good at 4 points might not seem, or 3 points might not seem like a lot, but if you're not good at collecting points, that
it might take you 3 games of draws and a bunch of losses.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not looking good for the bottom 3, but Vestri and KR can easily be dragged into this if they go on a bad run.
It'll be interesting to see who makes the split, though. I mean, there's a couple of ways to slice up this pie that is the table at the moment. But one way of doing it is sort of excluding the top 3, and then you have 6 teams potentially fighting for those other 3 spots if you are quite generous to Vestri and KR. The sort of the teams that are on double digits at the moment. FH and Fram, I would probably lock in personally. Yeah, I mean, they're on the same number of points as Fram, but I find them less convincing somehow. KR, I wouldn't put my money on. Vestri, I wouldn't put my money on. Stjarnan, it really depends.
Yeah, all those teams are they have a fragility about them that where you could easily see them making a 3 to 5 games run where they win most games, 3 to 5 games. But then you could also see them losing 2 to 3 in a row as well. So it's like Stjarnan has done now. Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, and FH hasn't picked up a win in 5 now, so it's in 4. Sorry.
Yeah, in 4.
So yeah, I think you're right. It's top 3, middle 6-ish, and bottom 3 at the moment. And it's up to these teams to change that narrative over the next coming weeks.
Yeah, and from our perspective, it's time for KR to change their narrative. They did one thing to try to move in that direction. They hired Óskar Hrafn as a consultant, whatever that means. Director of football. What is this meant to be?
I mean,
is this meant to be sort of a Ralph Rangnick sort of situation, or the proposed Ralph Rangnick situation that never was, or what is going on here, you think?
Yeah, like technical director, I have no idea. Like it's because he was asked a little bit about his role, like, is this you taking over Greg Ryder? Like, I think that's the obvious first question. And according to him, he has no interest in first team management at the moment. He's just here to help Greg, but he's also here to help assist with youth teams, women's team, and men's team, and then a departmental reorganization was part of the Cowher statement. So I don't know what that means. If there is some ramification happening there. I don't know. There might be some things brewing there. What that means for Greg, I'm not going to pretend to know.
I mean, departmental reorganization sounds like someone's getting fired. It might not be Greg.
Yeah.
But that's typically what that means, I would say. So
yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of rotation over this director of football role. I think it was kind of invented a little bit when Runar initially came to Cowher many years ago. He took over as director of football, as far as I remember. That quickly became a manager role, and then since then it's kind of been sort of half between Bjarni Guðjónsson, who's also kind of been an assistant in some capacity, and then Paul Merabn I think he's partly doing that now, but he's also kind of an assistant and coach. He was coaching, so it's like a rotation between people who are kind of then go into assistant or coach the women's team, or doesn't seem to be one person who's just director of football permanently. So this turns into that.
It kind of sounds like they need a departmental reorganization, because this sounds like a little bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the women's side, I mean, they're in the second division now. Yeah. That's not great either. So the whole football department definitely needs a bit of a kick in the ass.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting role, but he's been a manager so far, Oscar Rapp. So what this means for him and what he's going to be doing and what he can offer,
time will tell. But hopefully, things will start turning around for Cowher. In the opposite way, I guess, that it turned around in the game against Valur, because the first 6 minutes, I know this was labored, but it doesn't matter. The first 6 minutes of the game were great from our point of view.
Yeah,
Benoni Bregi shows that he's the greatest player on planet Earth, the finest striker this side of fucking Dimitar Berbatov. 2-0 after what, 6 minutes?
Yeah, 6-7 minutes, yeah.
Not bad for a start. They should have blown the final whistle.
Yeah, exactly. They were, but I mean, and you could see the Cowher bench, Greg and Palme, they were shouting to the players, come on, more, keep going, and they didn't.
They didn't. They conceded pretty soon thereafter, and then Valur decided, because Cowher had a good couple of minutes, that they would have a great few minutes after that, and in the span of 6, they scored another 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was 4-2 by the 37th minute, and 4-2 at halftime. I honestly think it could have been 7-2. Like, they had 2 or 3 open, really great chances. It got a little bit better in the second half, as in it wasn't just one-way traffic, but and then Finder Thomas got a red card, because Cowher would have to get a red card in every game.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a bad tackle. He was just last man, goal scoring opportunity, or whatever the rules are. One of those things.
Yeah. I mean, is that... I don't know. Is that smart at 4-2 when you find yourself in this sort of overall league situation to take the red?
No, I mean, it's hard. It's probably not, no. When you're losing 4-2 and it's the 60th minute.
Against the league leaders. Not the league leader, sorry, but against a league hopeful, when you're just sort of hoping to scrape by in the split.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. There was, like I said, they were playing better in the second half. Maybe there was a bit of hope that they could fight their way back into this. It was just a bit of careless defending. He let the ball bounce, which put a fairly innocuous ball, got past him, and then he had to take the striker down. Or didn't have to decided to take the striker down. I think it just happened so quickly that he didn't really have the time to think about all these ramifications.
Yeah.
But no, another red card. And now I think so he's suspended, and Axel I think is suspended as well because he got a yellow card. So for the game against Ia away, we have neither of our central defenders.
Perfect. But I don't know. To me, that sounds like the sort of situation where you win a game against all odds.
Yeah, the old rivals. Maybe this will spur us on. Yeah, I don't know.
Time will tell. I mean, let's hope it gets better. This is getting to be a little bit of an issue for Coward, but I don't know. I still don't find myself blaming Greg.
No, it's like we've said all season. I think it's just silly defensive mistakes and not really being able to keep up with the other teams and all these red cards as well. I think the only thing you could talk about, which again may be part of this reorganizational thing, it's more of maybe an error on the whole football department's side, is if we knew we were going to be playing this sort of high press football where we push the defensive line really high up, and then it doesn't, like Guy Smith is, like we've said already this season, he isn't all of a sudden a terrible goalkeeper, and he even showed it a few times in this game where he made one or two good saves, but he isn't a sweeper keeper.
No.
He's already gotten sent off this season because he's just been slow in getting out. He almost got sent off twice this season because he was slow in getting out.
Yeah.
He's not the quickest in sweeping.
No.
And then you have Axel Oskar who can be quick and can chase this stuff, but I mean it's not his strength. He's not not the fastest defender in the world. So he's maybe he's paying passes around and pushing higher up the pitch, and then you're having these teenage fullbacks chasing the likes of Padre Pedersen and Tryggvi Hrafn and all these players. It's a bit of a recipe for disaster. So, but it's hard to know where that came from. Like, is that because these were two players that were signed fairly late in the process? Like this, I mean, Guy was apparently on the list for a long time.
Yeah.
Axel was linked for quite a while, but they came in quite late. So it just seems a bit of an odd decision to maybe focus on those two, or at least on Guy, if this was the approach we were going to be taking. But again, it's hard to know whether that was Greg's decision or someone else's.
Yeah, but this sort of poor defending, I think, is something that is not exclusively reserved for Coward in this league. Either that or the attackers are incredible, because we saw here the highest scoring round ever in recorded history. We don't know about before the invention of written language, but 34 goals in one round, in the 9th round, which is 5 goals more than the joint second, third, which was in 2008 and 18 respectively. That's a lot of goals. Elva
Björk, who counted up that it was 22 goals just in the first half of these games.
Yeah,
which is seven behind the all-time record for the round. So, and that seems to be a little bit what we've seen so far this league. Is I mean the Coward Valur game was a bit of a anomaly where it was 4-2 at halftime, but even Kawa Ia, where the game ended 2-3 to Ia, all those 5 goals were conceded in the first half.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, if it's a fitness thing, if it's a defensive setup kind of thing, or what it is, but there does seems to be a trend that teams aren't really coming out that solid. They're maybe having to solidify it a bit later, whether it's down to substitutions or maybe the attackers getting tired, or whether it's a focus on the attacking side, that the attackers are maybe pushing up a little bit more in the beginning and then sitting back in the second half. I don't know, but the defending, I think I agree with you, hasn't maybe always been the greatest this season. It's hard to pick out, apart from maybe the ones we've mentioned so far, Kyle and obviously the Vikingur defense.
Yeah, I don't know what it would be that would put all the goals in the first half. I mean, you could say it's a fitness thing, right? and that teams are getting tired and not pushing as hard in the second half. But you would expect the defending teams to get tired as well and ship goals a little bit easier as a result as well. So that wouldn't necessarily shift it to the first half, but it might. It could be a weather thing. They're playing in horrible conditions some of the time for 90 minutes, and after 60 of them, you just sort of, both teams can't really do it anymore. No, but I don't know. But it's there is also this sort of, you see it in a lot of games. I guess there's sort of psychological thing. It's when the goals come thick and fast early on, then the game kind of just naturally tends to slow down later. You don't see a lot of games where the scoring is just very high for the duration of the game, unless it's a serious mismatch of a few leagues, maybe. But I don't know. In any case, it's the biggest take-home message from this league this season, from my point of view, anyways, that the defensive game could be upped. I think if you brought in a Mourinho type to coach in this league, you might be able to steamroll it with a bunch of 1-0s. If you just tightened up your defense real hard.
And I think that's kind of been Valor's approach. Then I think this season, because I mean their defense has maybe been the best so far. It's just the rest of the team has been catching up a little bit, and now they seem to have done that.
Yeah.
The attacking side they seem to have caught up, and that's even without Aronio and Gylfi, who've been injured for the last few games. Yeah, that's what Arnagriðason was brought in to do a little bit. That's what he was doing with Kawa before he joined Valur. It was this 1-0. I think they had a record that season where he was there, where they just wouldn't concede at home. They were just 1-0 constantly, and he's done that fairly well. It's just and I think that's something we need to keep an eye out if they can keep that going.
Yeah.
And the likes of Breiðablik could maybe struggle a little bit more than they have over the last few years. Then this could be the year of Valur.
I just did some quick calculation. Yeah, the highest scoring match week in Premier League history was 53 goals, which was in 92-93, and that had 22 clubs. The Bestadeildin has but 12. If you extrapolate up from the Bestadeildin's 12 teams to 22, you would get 67.76 goals in a match week, meaning that this is officially a higher scoring match week than the Premier League's highest scoring match week. You heard it here first.
So the Bestadeildin is the best Bestadeildin.
It is the most exciting, vibrant attacking league in the world.
Confirmed.
Of all time.
Confirmed.
Confirmed. And this was reflected in Iceland's game against England. What a segue. What a segue for one for the ages. Iceland winning 1-0. How do we feel about that? Kind of great. It was a friendly, but still.
It was a friendly, and I would hope that England played better than that, or I hope for their sake that England played better than that in the Euros, because, Iceland were good, but England were pretty terrible, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, Harry Kane should have scored that one chance, I guess. We all say that. None of us would have scored it, but I would have, but maybe no one else. But
but they didn't. We had more shots on goal, which I think that's maybe the most positive thing that I can say about that. Like, I mean, there's a lot of positive things, but I think that's the thing that I'm most happy about is that we actually scored that goal against England, that we had more shots on goal than them. I think it would have been, against a team like that, it would have been very easy just to sit back completely and then, 0-0 and be super happy about that. But we actually went forward. The goal we scored was really nice.
Yeah.
It was a really nice attack as well. So I'm really happy about that. I would have liked to see a bit more of that against the Netherlands. I think we sat a bit too much back. I think we were also tired after that game. I think we gave a bit too much or left a bit too much on the pitch against England. Mm-hmm. Understandably, but maybe there should have been a bit more rotation. But no, a really, really nice win, and it just would have been nice to follow up with a slightly more positive result against the Netherlands.
Yeah, 4-0, but I mean that's just the way that is.
Yeah, and they looked really good, the Netherlands. I think. I mean, they're going to face the more difficult opposition than us. They're definitely going to score goals at the Euros. I think there's no doubt about that.
If Iceland were at the Euros, what would you predict them going out of a random group?
I think we would have been in Ukraine's group. Yeah, so we would have been with Belgium, Romania, and Slovakia. There's a small chance.
A small chance. Not against Belgium.
No, I think Belgium. I mean, I don't personally think Belgium will do a ton this year. I think they'll score against. They would have scored against us. They usually do when you play them. But yeah, Slovakia, Romania.
Yeah,
we've played Romania a few times now, and it's been fairly tight. So yeah, maybe
it would have been a shot.
No, I think it was okay. It was we're building something. We're trying to get a starting lineup started. I think it's we need to have a bit of a discussion about the team and a little bit see what positions we need strengthening. And I think that's something that I get a bit tired of after these and around these games is the discussions. It's either the greatest game in the world or it's horrible and he needs to go, or there's never like a medium discussion with these games.
No.
It was a good, even the Dutch game, I'm not angry at anything that we did on the pitch. The main thing that I thought was maybe noteworthy is that we didn't make substitutions earlier. I get that he's trying to find a settled team that they can start in the Nations League in the autumn. The problem over the last few years, I feel, with the national team is that we stick a bit too much to one team that then doesn't seem to work, and then when we have to, or it does work and until it doesn't, and then we need to find someone else, and then we're looking for youngsters or someone who's playing in the Norwegian league, or someone who maybe hasn't played any national team games apart from friendlies against Faroe Islands or China or something, like these January windows we do sometimes.
Yeah.
It would have been nice, again, friendly and everything. It wouldn't have meant that much, but it would have been nice to see some of these kids get up at least the second half. We have, Christian Lindsson, who was one of the best players in a admittedly poor Ajax side.
Yeah,
he only got 7 minutes. We have Isak Bergman, who had a pretty good season in the second Bundesliga. He got, I think, 20 minutes or something.
Yeah.
While the likes of Johan Berg, who is a great player, is hugely important to the team.
Yeah.
But I feel like this happens every time there's an international friendly and one of our 30-plus-year-olds is out of contract. They get every minute. This happened with Birkir Bjarnason as well. Every time he was missing a club, he got to play every single minute.
I mean, that just smells like KSC to me. It's I'm an open KSC hater. I think it's a horrible, corrupt little institution, and this sounds like exactly something they would do.
Yeah, and again, this is not an anti-Jói. I think he did pretty well. I'm still not fully convinced about this midfield of Arnór and Jói. I think it's a little light, and you could see it a bit against England. Like it helps in certain, like, and they run around and they do a lot of really good stuff. But I think when we really need to sit back and then counter quickly, I think we need someone else maybe in there as well, like with them, not replace them completely, but maybe with them a little bit.
If you had to pick a couple of players from Bestadeildin to call up, who would you pick? Can't say Gylfi.
I mean, I think it would be nice to see someone like Daniel Djuric. He needs a bit of, like, he's seen this season where he's shown a bit more consistency, and I think he'll only get better and better and grow into this maybe if he gets a move abroad. But I think someone like him to see, he would fit quite well into our winger strategy, which is a bit of, Jon Dagur and Mikael, who are good with, like, taking nothing away from them what they did, and Jon Dagur scored a great goal against England, but they're a little bit of a shithouse. They love to get in people's faces and stuff, which I think is great. And I think Daniel would fit into that group quite well. So have a bit of, I like having this a little bit of unpredictability on the wings. I think we need someone like that. I always liked it when Rurik, for example, was playing on the wing. He maybe wasn't the strongest defensively, but he always just ran at the other defense, and we were missing that sometimes. And I think Daniel could be someone who would do that and would just not be afraid of anyone, whether his name was Van Dijk or John Stones. Couldn't care less, I don't think.
Very good. What about Benoni?
It would be nice to see someone like him get a chance in a game like this. I think it may be a bit too early, but when you have Orre pull out with an injury, leaving us only with Andre Lucas, who had a really good season with Lyngby and just earned a move to Ghent in Belgium, and had 2 good games, but I think towards the end of the Dutch game, he was getting tired. There was one time towards the end where we actually got a pass through to him, and his ball control wasn't the greatest. I think he was just getting tired. It's been a long season as well for him. So yeah, I mean, why not try to bring in someone like that? He's a very similar profile. He'll just keep running. I'm not sure he will score necessarily against Van Dijk, someone like Van Dijk, but I mean, you never know. Yeah, why not? I think it would be it would be nice to get these sort of I think it makes sense to have like 90% of the team be the team that you're going to call up the Nations League, but then call up like 3 people.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that math works out, but like call up 3 people who just want to see some young players maybe playing in the Besta, maybe who just moved to Norway or something like that, and just give them a bit of a taste, maybe open them up a little bit to international markets as well. It would be nice to try that once in a while, not just against the Faroe Islands when nobody's watching. So yeah, I think those would be my. And then I mean, it would be nice to have someone like Kyle if we could.
We could poach him.
Yeah, I think we could. Let's wait. Need to have a talk with him. See if we can convert him.
Yeah, that sounds doable. Patrick Pedersen.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Funny, we should say this because listener questions from last episode, we asked who the best player in the league was, and one of the answers that came up a number of times was Gylve, obviously, and the other 2, Daniel Djuric, Benny Bregi.
Yeah, we had one person also say Gustav Kjeldsen.
Well, I guess he should also get called up somehow.
It would have been fun to see them in the national team, even not give them 30 minutes, but give them 5 minutes towards the end and have them run at Van Dijk for a little bit. Put the fear of God in him. See Daniel and Benoni coming for him.
The other listener question, I mean, you have to agree. You have to agree there. We asked if Fylkir would be able to save themselves from relegation, and nobody said yes. I mean, I wouldn't say yes. At this point, it's looking difficult.
I think the main thing that we touched a little bit upon last episode is that they seem to be getting they are getting players back from injury now. They scored 2 against Vikingur. They beat Hauka 3-1, so they're scoring goals. 5 goals in 2 games. That's significantly better than what they've been doing. That's almost 50% of their goal tally so far. So plus you need to take out that crazy result at the beginning of the game, three goals beginning of the season, 3 goals against Coward. So
yeah,
let's see. They have a interesting game against Vestri if they can. But yeah, I mean, I agree. If they lose that game,
yeah. So I guess it's time for our 3 stars, the players of the round, none of whom are the players that we touted as the best in the league, or whom we recommended for international call-ups. That's just the way the game goes. So the first one wouldn't get a call-up for obvious reason. Toby King for Vestri scoring a great goal and playing an instrumental role in that big old victory of theirs against Stjarnan.
Yeah, well deserved. I think it's going to be interesting to see if he can kick off from here, or if this was a bit of a one-off. But really great performance from Vestri, and I think he played quite well. The second star in a game that maybe we didn't talk about that much, maybe to spare Joe's feelings. So that's the 3-3 draw between FO and Fram. Fram 3-0 up, I think. Was it at halftime, or was it? It was soon thereafter, wasn't it? So Sigurður Bjartur scored the 3rd goal after 59 minutes, and it looked pretty dead, that game. I was watching it, and Fram looked like they weren't able to cope with this FO team. But then all of a sudden they were. So this was one of the games with a lot of second half goals. Mm-hmm. And they came back and drew 3-3, and Harald Reynir coming back to haunt his old club with a goal and an assist. Maybe the Fram team didn't have the best first half, but if you score 3 goals in half an hour and you're instrumental in that, I think that earns you space on our list.
Amen. And the final one, Tryggvi Hrafn. Patrick Pedersen also scored 2 against Kauer, just like Tryggvi, but what Tryggvi has is 4 goals in 5 days, having also scored 2 against Stjarnan. So he beats him there. 2 great performances.
A bit of a comeback, a little bit for him. Maybe hasn't started the season as well as he'd wanted. I mean, not terribly, but yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and just tearing Stjarnan and Kauer apart.
Yeah,
really great. But yeah, Patrick is snapping at his heels there. He had a really good weekend as well, and is now the top goal scorer in the league with 7 goals, I think. 8 goals.
Yeah, it must be nice having multiple consistent goal scorers. But we have Benoni.
Exactly. 3rd top goal scorer.
We're good. Yeah. We are good. Well, the round coming up, if we just gaze into the future ever so slightly, ever so quickly, some big games coming up. I mean, a big game towards the bottom, Fylkir Vestri. This is maybe the final chance for Fylkir to turn things around. I mean, this would put them 3 points off Vestri if they beat them, right?
Yeah. I mean, if they can win this game, then it's a bit more tight, I think. I mean, there's still a long way to go. We're not halfway through, and then we still have the split coming up, right? So, like, they have time, but like we said earlier on in the episode, you can have 10 games left, but if you only win one of those, it doesn't really help you. So, yeah, they need to be able to be competitive against the teams that will likely be in the bottom 6 as well. So, this is a big game for them.
Yeah. And then there's 3 games. I mean, the way the table is, so many games feel like they're actually quite important. Like Fram, Haukau, I mean, this is an opportunity for Fram to really solidify themselves as top table. And at the same time, it's an opportunity for Haukau to punch a little bit above their weight and pull themselves away from relegation. Stjarnan FH, we already talked about. It's an opportunity for Stjarnan to prove that they belong with the big boys. For FH, I guess same sort of thing. IA Kauer really, really need to kick on there. But again, IA are, they're hoping to play for top 5, top 4, maybe top 3. Woo. So these should all be interesting games. And then you have, obviously, the Breiðablik should pick up points. And then Valur Víkingur, the biggest game of them all, probably. The one that's going to be advertised on television. Right. But the fact that they're playing each other means that, Breiðablik picking up 3 points, if the other one ends in a draw, then all of a sudden it becomes extremely tight at the top between Víkingur and Breiðablik. All in all, very exciting.
Yeah, Valur will have a slightly longer time to prepare for that game because they played against Keflavik, went into penalties. They could only beat them on penalties after a 3-3 result after extra time. But that was on Sunday, while Víkingur are playing against Fylkir on Thursday. Mm-hmm. So Víkingur only have Thursday to Tuesday to rest, while Valur only has almost a week. But I mean, they both had the international break, so they should be ready for this one.
That they should. Well, these games are on Tuesday and Wednesday, so the next round. So everybody, get ready, get excited, stay tuned, etc., etc. We'll be back after that round to discuss it.
Yeah, we can't wait to talk about Icelandic football with you. It'll be a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. It will, and we will see you then. Bye.
Bye.